is such that it would qualify for a loan, but no bank's going to lend you 100% of any project. This type of project, you're looking at about 50%. So the club has to raise about $500,000 to $600,000 to make that improvement. What they've sort of come up with is the possibility of using part of their land to fund the project. So, as I mentioned before, the club owns about 10 acres of land. They've put together a plan to carve out a little less than 2.5 acres. And in carving that out, they've established a plan that basically would allow for 4 lots to be built. The value of those lots in the rough, without putting any infrastructure in, is about $150,000 a lot, without a road or any improvements. So that's kind of how they came up to. They need to raise about $500,000 to $600,000. A road would go in, 4 lots would be constructed, and they would seek to sell those lots privately to a builder who would hopefully develop it and build out, those 4 parcels. So you'll see in your packet not only a A&R plan, but just to be up front, we've also put together our, what we're looking at as a proposed subdivision plan, which shows the roadway and the 4 lots within the proposed subdivision. A couple of things that the community might have questions on: is this going to become a 40B? And the answer is no. That's why we're proposing to rezone. 40B we wouldn't need to rezone. 40B could go anywhere. It would bypass the zoning table. We want to rezone it. We want it to be a residential project that meets the zoning bylaws. So that's why we've established the plan up front, and any builder that we sell that to would have to adhere to the terms of that in the sale, that they would basically be required to permit that particular project. So it wouldn't become a 40B, but without the sale of the land, which would allow us to get the additional financing from Enterprise Bank, if the pool fails, the club will cease. It's a swim and tennis club. It's not going to survive as a tennis club. We have about 260 families that belong to the club, and the main attraction is the pool. The families with children have swim lessons, swim meets. They compete against other local clubs. It's really the focal point. And if, come the spring, the pool doesn't work, the club doesn't feel it would survive as an ongoing venture. In that case, then, at some point, they'd be looking to sell the whole thing probably. It would probably cease to exist as a club. With 260 families, there's no way to raise $1 million. You can't defray that cost amongst that. So that's kind of the project. Another little insight is about 80% of the bonded members of the club are Chelmsford residents, so it is a Chelmsford club.
Monica?
Can you come back to me? I'm just looking at the...
Gwen? I think I'm fine with it the way it looks. It's not taking the bulk of it. It's only taking a portion of it. I think I'd be fine with it.
Mike? Let's see, everything around it that's not open space is RC currently?
Correct.
Okay, so this would just be, huh?
RC is on the right-hand side, though.
RB?
So it's RB.
The as mentioned in the report some time ago, the club did a similar rezoning on the right-hand side of their property. That was rezoned from OS to RC, and a series of duplexes were built in accordance with
Okay, I was gonna
RC.
say RC is multifamily,
RC is 2-family,
and RB is
single-family.
single-family at what lot size?
40,000.
40,000.
RB is,
RC is 20.
correct.
These would be 40,000 square foot lots, I
Oh,
believe.
is there any reason that, I'm looking at the stuff that's contiguous to it and wondering why this article isn't to change it to RB rather than RC.
I think what Evan said, before when the club sold the other land, it was zoned RC.
Yeah.
That would certainly give us, even maintaining the 40,000 square feet would certainly give us more options than RB. And it was just consistent with what the club had done in the past.
Mhm. No, I would prefer to see RB, frankly, but.
I think, you hit it, the other ones are duplexes and versus singles, and
Right.
duplexes would generate a little more money for them.
The other thing I forgot to mention is we have set up a butter meeting at the club for September 28th at 7 p.m. So September 28th, 7 p.m., any butter can come to the club. We'll give a full presentation. We'll do a site walk. Obviously, we plan on inviting town meeting reps as well in case they want to hear the presentation. These postcards will go out tomorrow, but I just wanted the board to know we are going to have that type of
And
presentation.
just for the board's edification, per your policy and town meeting's policy, the office did a direct abutter notification to, at a minimum, all abutters within 300 feet, but we extended that as appropriate.
And,
Good.
Ann,
What areas in this area are currently zoned RC?
What areas within the, this general part of the town?
Part
I
of
believe
town.
as you face the right-hand side, if you face the club off to the right-hand side, I think it also, I believe there is some RC on Turnpike Road as well. I'd have to look. I don't
It's
know
one of these
all
two
them.
parcels right here,
Yeah.
formerly owned by,
Ones? Okay.
to the right of.
Is it what I'm seeing on this over here is duplexes?
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
yep. You see
So
it on the
we-
GIS map.
So we created at that time a small pocket of RC
Correct.
in
Yep.
an
At some-
RB zone?
At some point in the distant past, the club proposed exactly what they're proposing now on the opposite side, but property they owned.
do you have a
I
question?
thought well, yeah, I have a couple questions. The open space, does that have any preservation restrictions on it?
No.
Yeah, I thought we had a policy of not creating single property or small pockets of zoning. I know we don't do single properties, but that there's a state reg that prevents single property zoning. I remember seeing
There is
something
spot-
about
there
it.
is the concept
Yeah,
of
it's
spot
looking-
zoning.
The spot
I was looking at
zoning
the
is
surrounding
prohibited.
zoning, just to make
There's
sure we
spot
weren't
zoning,
spot
but
zoning.
you got
I think
basically
we
a
already got
commercial,
it
you got a
there.
commercial business next door,
Yeah.
you got RC on the other side, so.
I don't think it's gonna hurt anything there, to be honest with you.
But it needs to be, it can't, it must be, oh gosh, just
Do-
drawing a blank there. In line with the contiguous properties, I feel like
5-5.
on that side, if it's RB, then this should be RB too.
Yeah,
So it's in line with the surrounding properties, just on that side.
that
Other
would
than
be
that,
my
it's kind of.
It's
like
certainly
it's
no-
lot great,
I mean, I don't think putting duplexes there is a bad thing particularly, but from a zoning standpoint, pocket zoning is generally frowned on. I don't know whether it would be regulated and prohibited as for properties, but it's certainly frowned on for spot zoning.
We're just,
So that, what's before us right now is
we're just
RC.
endorsing this, right?
So what's before us is RC, so I'm gonna, at this point, I'm gonna go to the audience, there might be some people here.
But just,
Yeah,
and
go
just
ahead.
if I can, we're talking about a property that on one side is RB and one side is RC. So either way, you could look at it as contiguous with what's next door to the 10-acre parcel.
We'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Since the public hearing, I'm opening it to the public. Anybody from the public wish to speak, please step to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Please state your name and address for the record. Mr.
Good
Jones.
evening, Bob Joyce, 103 Turnpike Road. The first thing, I'd like to ask council,
Ask the.
ask the chairman, where that red stamp is that currently a parking lot? There's a house, there's some kind of a house there and,
No, there is a small secondary lot, but it's on our parcel, it's on our.
yeah, it's got like a clubhouse.
Well, the clubhouse is here,
Oh, okay.
and there's a little parking lot up front on this side and one on that side, but it's all within this parcel, it's not on this parcel.
Okay. Couple of things that come to mind is that, God, haven't we done enough to this part of town already?
You'll have your.
I mean, we've got apartments going on up the street that are hanging off a cliff, right? And we got condos going in at 200 Turnpike Road, and we got supposedly condos going in at 104, which I hope not. I mean, why does this part of town always get banged? I mean, I was a member of this club, and I know they do good things, and I'd hate to see it go out of business. But, you know, enough is enough. I mean, when I was on the Board of Selectmen, we bought 101, I think it was 101 Mill Road, so that a developer wouldn't buy it. Now we're in the process of selling it again. But I just don't like the idea of putting more traffic and more people in that neighborhood. And the other thing that I seem to remember, I've been in town 46 years, and I seem to remember that long ago, Attorney Shanahan took care of the Russell Mill. And I thought that they were only allowed to build so many units and that there was some kind of a restriction on it. So I don't know if you've looked it up, but I think there might be a restriction. Thank you.
So I just want to remind the audience, the planning board did not bring this article forward. This is a citizen's petition. Okay? Anyone else from the audience wish to speak?
Good evening. John Deloge. I live at 42 Ruth Ellen Road. I'm one of the abutters to this property. As a matter of fact, I can show you. Yeah. All right. So what's being proposed here, and let's be clear about it, is that apartment buildings going up in my backyard, as well as the other persons that abut this property. And as you can also see from this document, that all the parcels of land around this property are single residence. There's no multi-resident parcels either on Ruth Ellen Road or on Mill Road around this land. So what they're proposing is something out of the ordinary, putting in apartment buildings wedged in to a parcel of land that's not big enough to support single residence units. Now, over the years, I also was a member of Russell Mill back in the day, and I had my kids go there. And you know, they went to swimming lessons. They were the lifeguards there. They learned to swim there. They were in the swimming team. And if I'm not mistaken, well, before I get there, and I didn't complain when, you know, kids from the neighborhood crossed my property to go to Russell Mill to go to their swimming lessons, and I didn't complain when Russell Mill had their all-night parties, even though they said they didn't. All right, and I didn't complain when they kept the lights going all night long, high-intensity lights from the tennis courts all night long, okay, which they said they would shut off at 10 o'clock. All right, but I am going to complain now because what's in it for me, from what I can see, is more noise, more traffic, less resources. And when I say less resources, I moved in here in 1982. We didn't have a water ban in 1982. But yet this year we have a water ban, okay, in this area, okay, and it's been raining all summer. So you can't tell me that, you know, we still have all these resources available to support all these apartments going up, all right? And I also like the open spaces. I kind of enjoy that. That's why one of the things when I moved in here, I moved out of Boston, Brighton, Massachusetts. I don't know if you're familiar with Brighton, but I don't hear a plane overhead. I don't hear a train in the background. I don't hear a siren going down the street. It's like summer camp for me, all right? And I don't mind, you know, watching the deer come through the yard. We see a lot of those. I don't mind the turkeys going through the yard, even though they're a nuisance now, all right? And occasionally I see a red fox. Well, they've all disappeared since, you know, these trees were cut down. And I'm sure you're all familiar with, all the trees in that lot have been disappeared last summer, all right, without any input from the public. They just came in and cut the trees down. One day they were there, the next day they were gone. I also want to point out, looking at the charts in some of the town records, that I believe there's some wetlands back in here. All in here, that little spot. I think we should check on those to make sure that it's appropriate to even build there. I'm not sure that it is. I know I have water issues there,
You have that slide?
all right?
Give me that slide.
I don't have that presentation.
All right, and last I want to say, I believe, okay, so the last question, and I'll have to ask this for the Russell Mill, I don't know if you folks know this or not, but isn't Russell Mill a charitable organization listed under yes or no? Can somebody tell me that?
That wouldn't have any bearing on what we're doing.
Okay, that was not the question I asked. Is it yes or no? It was a yes or no question.
It doesn't have a bearing on what we're doing.
Okay, so I take that as a yes?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It has no bearing on what we're doing.
Okay, okay. Then I just, well, it may have for Russell Mill, okay, and maybe they should look into it. Because as a charitable organization, you know, the sale of property from a charitable organization has certain requirements that have to be met under Section 512 of the Internal Revenue Code. And they need to get, or they should get an assessment from the Internal Revenue Code to see if any of these sales will result in unrelated business income taxes. Okay, because if they do, that could result in loss of their tax exempt status. So not a question for the board.
Hopefully they have a good lawyer that's already looked into that. So.
Okay. Maybe, and I want to know if that will be made public once they do. But in any case, I apologize for putting that on you. It wasn't a question really directed to you. But in any case, that's my feeling. That's why I'm here tonight. I hope they can put that pool in another way. And I don't take at face value that there is no other way. All right. I believe if they're resourceful enough and they have more people involved, they can find another way for their swimming pool. But I do know that at the end of the day, they get a swimming pool and they go home. I'm left there with an apartment in my backyard. They wouldn't want that in their backyard.
Thank you. Anybody else? We got a very heavy agenda. Really, please, hold your applause to last. We have a heavy agenda, and we're going to be here until 11 o'clock tonight. So if you could, anyone else in the public, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. If there's anyone else that wishes to speak after, if you could queue up, we'd appreciate it. It'll move a little quicker.
So my name's Ashley Shaw. I live at 139 Mill Road. I actually, like this gentleman, live directly across from the existing structure here. So in my mail, I don't know, 3 weeks ago maybe, this was the first that I had seen anything about the zoning change. I work in architecture, so I'm familiar with the industry. I guess my main concern is, you know, why are we going to this medium density zoning and why aren't we doing a single family zoning? Like the previous gentleman before me stated, I mean, all around us is single family homes. Adding that extra traffic of trying to do duplexes or a medium density apartment on that road, honestly, as it already is a high traffic area, I think would just put it at capacity. When I moved in 3 years ago, it was a little bit quieter. I've definitely seen with the development down the road and, you know, just in general that it's gotten a lot busier. So I just want to state for the record as an abutter that I just don't understand why it wouldn't be zoned as single family.
Thank you.
My impression would be that,
You have to state your name.
yeah,
sorry.
Ray O'Riordan, Ruth Ellen Road. I would get the impression that none of the members here travel Mill Road often. I live right on Ruth Ellen Road, and I'm going to tell you, there's only two accesses out of my development. And one is onto Turnpike, and the other is onto Ruth Ellen Road from Raymond Road. And with the traffic that's on Mill Road right now, I find it difficult getting out of Raymond Road to take a left-hand turn, because right across are the soccer fields. And now, at the end of Mill Road, we have, 96 condo units going in? And if they want to travel to get to Route 4 or to Desch's Market, they have to travel down Mill Road. And before there's any approval on this, I'd like to see some traffic survey done on Mill Road to see if it's safe to accommodate all that travel. Because we have businesses down on the end of Mill Road that travel now to get to Route 4. We're going to have 96 units built there, traveling down Mill Road. And now you want to put additional housing on Mill Road? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I really appreciate that be given consideration to maybe doing a traffic survey on Mill Road.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Mark Branco, 12 Barry Drive. I am the president of Russell Mill Swim and Tennis Club, and was one of the bond members who has brought this forward to the town. I've been a member at Russell Mill Swim and Tennis Club for 36 years. While I do not, my home is not in this neighborhood, I have been a de
Could you
facto.
address the board?
I'm sorry, I've been a de facto member of the neighborhood for 36 years. We are trying to be very honest and transparent with the neighborhood and with the town around this project. Our pool is 42 years old. The life expectancy on a recreational cement pool is between 40 to 50 years old. We've had divers, surveyors, money out of pocket from the membership for many, many years to continuously sustain. We have worked for 5 years to get our finances in shape to where we have a very good reserve. Previously, the club was not in a position to make a move like this at all. We have spent 5 years getting our finances in order. We've been approved for a loan for up to $500,000 to $600,000, which is an incredible task for a small organization like ours. We're a member-owned club. We are nonprofit. We have all the legal rights of a landowner, and actually the bonded members own the property and the club itself. We do not take this decision lightly. We looked at the right side of the property, which has already been historically zoned as RC, with like colonial duplexes. There's a lot of misinformation being said at the microphone already tonight. You're not going to have massive apartment complexes in there. You're going to have 4 lots with 1 large duplex, colonial style duplex, which blends in with what's already on Mill Road on the right, also blends in with Turnpike. We need to get a certain amount of money from this land sale to offset the amount of money, or put together with the amount of money that we're getting from the loan. If it's zoned this way and that type of housing is built, that's the amount of money we'll get. If it's zoned a different way, there's potential we don't get the same amount of money. As the attorney said earlier, then that puts us in a position to still be looking at how we can play with our land differently. We don't want to play with our land any differently in the neighborhood. We want to be respectful of this neighborhood. I understand the soccer fields are there, my kids play on them. I understand the traffic has gone up. All I can do is apologize that the club happens to have been built there 50, 60, 70 years ago. But that's where it is. We feel like we're members of the neighborhood. I have been there 36 years. I don't think we've left the lights on beyond midnight. You're correct, sir, that we have left them on past 10 o'clock a few times for tournaments. And you're right, we've had some movie nights, but we don't party all night. We don't have kegs. We don't have a bar. We're a pretty modest family club, and we would like to remain a modest family club for another 50 years. If this happens, we just bought this town and this club another 50 years. And I think we should be proud that we have golf courses, family clubs, and that kind of establishment in these neighborhoods, in this community. I'd be happy to meet with anybody personally. I hope the neighborhood comes out on the 28th. We are your neighbors. We are not trying to pull a fast one. This is the best way that we can make this happen. And if for some reason this doesn't go through, we are going to continue to pursue this because the membership owns the club and the land, and we would like to keep our pool club open moving forward.
You can ask the board the question and.
The question, Ray O'Riordan, Ruth Ellen Road. My question to the board is, if indeed what I just heard, that the club has $500,000 in reserve.
No, that's not true.
What did you, how much is the reserve?
Commitment from a
We have a
bank.
commitment from a bank for a small business.
Okay, commitment from a bank for small business owning $500,000, and there are 4 lots there. Those lots, plus the $500,000, single-family homes, should accommodate what they need for a swimming pool, I would think.
Do you want me to respond or no?
Nope.
Okay.
Because we're not here about the money. We're here about the zoning. I'm sorry to say that, but this board's about the zoning that's there. And I understand they're doing it for a reason, but I can't speak for the rest of the board, but our decision will not be based on money.
So I will sit back down just for respectfully to keep it on zoning. Then I guess our thought as a board of directors and as the ownership of the club, we believe, contrary to some people in the room, that it does fit because the right side of our property is already zoned this way, and there are other neighborhoods within a block or 2 blocks that ours is. We do not believe it's spot zoning. We don't think it's going to come back that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Mike Beliveau. I live at 46 Ruth Ellen Road, and if I could show you where I live, it's up. If you come up here, I am right there on the corner. As you can imagine, I will be grossly affected by any development, any construction, any efforts that are going on for this project. I can tell you, with all due respect to Mr. Branco, I had reached out to him several times when trees started coming down and unfortunately got no response. And in turn, I feel like I will get the same level of communication or lack thereof in the event where this starts to be developed by some random developer. I don't think I have seen the duplexes that are on the right side of the properties. I think they're enormous. I don't think they really fit the spirit or the flavor of the neighborhood, if you will. It seems to me like, I know that my properties on Ruth Ellen are all slabs, as are the properties to the left of the proposed area. And I just want to let you know that I'm against it. So, against any change. So thank you all for your time. I do appreciate it. And I will be at the meeting to speak with the abutters. That offer is appreciated to learn a little bit more. So thank you to the club, for sure. Thank you.
I'm gonna make a suggestion to the board. I'm gonna make a suggestion while you're walking out. My suggestion then maybe is that we continue this until after the 28th. Ask Evan to give us a highlight of the area of the zoning around this property, of maybe the 300 feet, or 500 feet or some number around it, so we can see what the zoning is around the property. And that will give the abutters time to meet with the applicant and give us time to examine the zoning around it. So is there anyone else after this? You'll have an opportunity I think we're going to agree on continuing this.
I'm with you, but Mr. Chair, I would like to also request that Evan investigate the original subdivision plan for Russell Mill to determine if there were requirements of the subdivision plan to maintain an open space.
Okay.
I think it's appropriate to this.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Okay. Maureen Mears, I live at Ruth Ellen Road. I'm also one of the abutters of the property. Also was a member of the swim club years ago. And I am also against what is being done here today. I would like it to be noted that they talk about being a good neighbor, but yet came in and took away all the trees without even a single notification. You came home one day and there's massive commotion going on while they're taking them down. So I don't think there was any willingness to be a partner, I guess, in the neighborhood. And I'm against what is being
Okay.
done.
Well, maybe they've seen the error of their ways and they're gonna send out postcards and.
I don't think so.
So, at this point, I think I'm gonna,
Would you accept a motion to continue?
motion to continue, and we're gonna,
Second.
hold on a second, we're gonna get a date.
October 11th.
October 11th. I'm sorry. So I have a motion to continue to October 11th by Mike,
Yeah.
Second.
second by Glenn. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
I would encourage you to meet with your neighbors. Okay, so the next, I'm gonna jump to 254 Borica Road, Sunny Acres. For the record, I'm gonna be stepping out. Tim will be sitting in my place. We are missing a member, so to the applicant, there'll only be 6 people voting on the special permit. Are you okay with going forward?
If I may ask the chair, with 6 voting members, what do we need, 4 out of 6?
5.
I need 5 out of 6?
We need 5.
And is Mr. Rue, who is
Yeah,
not
he's missing.
absent. So I'm gonna step out of the room. Mike's gonna take over as vice chair, and you can answer him.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, check and see if we have any letters before you. Okay. Take care of that. All right. Very well. We have one letter to read before we go forward. Any volunteers? Guess I'll read it myself. This is Department of Public Works. Dear members, this office has reviewed the site plan by Whitman and Bingham consisting of 8 sheets dated July 25th, 2017, and a stormwater analysis dated July 25th, 2017. As a result of this review, this office has the following comments. 1, the department shall be notified when work on the site is to commence in order to arrange for inspections. 2, any revisions to the drainage system shall be submitted and approved by this office. 3, the stormwater operation and maintenance plan shall be followed as described in the report. Copies of any inspections or other reports done in accordance with the plan shall be forwarded to the engineering office. 4, a site as-built shall be provided upon completion of the work out on site, as built to include a letter from the engineer stating that all stormwater devices have been built to satisfy Mass stormwater standards. Provide all supporting documents and calculations. The as-built shall be from a ground survey and submitted in AutoCAD and paper form. 5, confirmatory testing shall be performed in the area of the infiltration area per stormwater management guidelines. Testing shall be witnessed by the Chelmsford DPW Engineering Division. All unsuitable material, if any, discarded in the excavation for the infiltration system shall be removed and disposed of in accordance with the state and local regulations. 6, this project requires an NPDES construction general permit. A final copy of the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, SWPPP, may be submitted to the town as well, or must be submitted to the town, as well as filed with EPA prior to beginning any site work. 7, the proposed sewer work will require permitting from the DPW Sewer Division for connection to the municipal sewer system. 8, a road opening permit is required from the Chelmsford DPW Highway Division for work within the Bill Ricker Road right-of-way. 9, trench permits shall be filed as necessary per 520 CMR 14.00, Chapter 82A. 10, the design engineer has received design and drafting comments from this office. If you have any questions, please contact this office. Sincerely, Christina Papadopoulos, Town Engineer. So, take it away, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Acting Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Brian Melissi with Whitman and Bingham Associates, here representing Sunny Acres Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. With me in the audience, way back in the audience, is Jeff Schwartz from Sunny Acres and Jerry Menke from EGA Architects, who's the project architect. So if there are any questions for those guys, we can drag them up here and get those questions answered. As a brief update and overview, we were here at your last meeting a couple weeks ago. We did go over the site plan. There were a couple of questions that I'll answer very briefly. However, point of order, Mr. Acting Chair, I think we do feel comfortable going forward.
Okay.
If something were to take a wrong turn, maybe I would ask for a continuance.
Accepted.
First thing I think of from the plan revision standpoint, we have not submitted our engineering plan revisions as of yet. We got town engineer's comments last week. At the last meeting, it was told that we would have a draft decision, or at least start to working on a draft decision. We received a copy of that draft today just to go over it. Just wanted to make sure that there weren't any other revisions that were going to be required from the plan. I always like to try to get one full set of revisions in rather than have 15 sets of plans hanging around. However, what we were able to do is we submitted a revised landscape plan with a couple of the responses to the questions that were brought up by one of the members. I do have a couple of large copies. There's one on the TV screen now. I also have some 11 by 17s. If it would help some of the board members, I could hand these out. Of particular maybe importance would be the front page of this cover letter here. And I believe most of the questions came from Nan. There were some questions regarding the landscape plan, such as some of the plant variety that was chosen and some of the placement of the plants that were chosen. And I have a couple of quick questions or responses to that. As I'm passing these out. Also, when you do look at the landscape plan, they included kind of an enlarged area for the memory care garden. What I'd also like to hand out is just a couple of pictures of some memory care gardens that went in. It is going to be a secured exterior facility with a fence, giving the residents an area to go out, get a breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
I think it's started with plants that remind them of home, remind them of security. It's some, however, it is going to be locked and gated for their security. I'd like to go those, and I could go over the questions if you would like from the landscape architect, but
No,
it is
fine
all
with
right
those
there.
answers.
On top of that, we did have a chance to review the engineering comments. I don't think, and I would quote, I don't think there's anything that's a game changer in there. A lot of it is some dimensioning here and there, some information on the stormwater that Christina asked for, and we would certainly supply that as part of our follow-up revisions. And so I know I was very brief, but that's an update, and I would turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I guess we'll run around the board and see if anybody has any additional comments. I know we were fairly thorough last time around. Take it away.
Yeah, I just have a quick one, and excuse me if this was brought up or if it wasn't. But in terms of having a pedestrian way leading from Billricker Road onto the property itself, that seems like
we do not have one yet. There is a condition or a draft condition in the approval that we were given today for maybe a pocket park, something to do with the CUH. So we could incorporate that into some of the near the egress. As of right now, we do not have. We don't call for a large sidewalk on Route 129.
What were you asking for?
Is that what you were?
No, a pedestrian way that actually leads onto the property itself from the public way. I see the landscaping up front, however, especially since this is on the redeveloping 129 area, where we do discuss increasing access,
Right.
modal access, it would be important to incorporate an actual pedestrian way leading onto the property.
You have this plan shows you have a perimeter sidewalk right here.
Right.
So
We do.
Are you willing to accept a condition that if and when sidewalks are built on 129, that you'll build a
Extend it.
connection from
Sure,
your?
'cause that would be the issue. If we were to build one out, it would kind of go to nowhere. But
Is that
yeah,
what
we
you're
could
looking
actually
for?
even,
Exactly.
All right.
we could actually add a piece of small sidewalk there to the edge of the right of way.
If you want to do that as part of the project,
Yeah, it'll
just
come
won't go
sooner.
to
or
a
later.
sidewalk.
Exactly. Not at this point, but at
Yep.
some point as we redevelop the area.
Okay. Good.
That's it.
That's it? Glenn?
I got no questions. I just want to comment. I think it's a nice looking project, and I think it'll do very well there.
Henry?
No questions. I think it's going to be a
Dan?
improvement to the neighborhood.
I'm good with it.
Tim? Because you're going to vote on this guy.
No questions. I'm good with the plan.
You good with it?
If I may, Mr. Chair, one
Yep.
thing I just omitted is, and I believe it was Henry who had the question last time about lighting, whether we were going to the 4K or the 5K.
Yeah.
And I was able to ascertain that it is the 4KW lighting. We did have another, and I submitted this. This is the an updated lighting study.
Good.
It does meet that 4K lighting.
Okay.
And I submitted this to planning staff, and we just want to make sure this gets into the...
Good, thank you. Yeah.
This is noted in the draft decision.
It's noted in the draft, okay, yeah. And I will say that normally, as a fan of very, very soft lights, I would be pushing for 3.5, but I realize that in this environment with some people that maybe don't see particularly well, 4K is probably a reasonable compromise. Oh, Nan, go ahead.
Question? Yeah, am I reading this sheet 2 properly that the memory garden is not lit?
At the time that we get this to the lighting guy, the memory garden wasn't quite figured out yet, so there will be some wall mount lighting in the memory garden, absolutely.
I'm sure you won't have people out there.
Yeah, right, you won't have them.
Yeah, probably not, but
Certainly some emergency egress lighting at the
Yeah.
egresses
Right,
would certainly
that's
be part of
required.
it.
Yeah.
but, yeah.
okay.
Very good. Now, are we on a public hearing, or we close this one?
It's still open.
It's still open? Okay. Anybody else on the board want to make a comment before I open it up to the public?
Open it up.
Is there anybody out there in the public that would like to make a comment on this or be heard in any way? I recognize that face. Sir.
Glenn Diggs, 220 Wellman Avenue, and also member of the Board of Selectmen. I would just like to comment in general on the facility in general, and I hope that you look favorably on their project. I don't know if many people in Chelmsford know that this particular nursing home is one of the leading nursing homes in the country. It's part of the top 4% of nursing homes in the country. It is a particular value to the people of Chelmsford among the resources that we have for our senior citizens. We need as many as we can get. That based on the general statistics of where memory units like this are going to be needed, that there's probably people in this room who someday might be a resident out there. And having a resource like this for the town, an independent nursing home, which there are very few left, is something that we should be proud of and try to promote. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. And I have to say, I think the whole board probably agrees with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would anybody else like to speak on this? Anybody at all? Once, twice? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close from Glenn,
Second.
second by Henry. All in favor?
Aye.
Want a motion to approve?
Yeah, and as part of that, we should review the draft decision.
Okay.
So we have a motion to approve by Glenn,
Second.
second by Henry. Now let's go over this, and then we can act on the motion.
Perfect.
All right, I went through it earlier, and well, should we go through it page by page? Does anybody feel the need to do that? I think,
I looked through it briefly. It looked,
yeah, it looked fine to me.
everything's in there that should be in there.
So, Mike, you had a couple?
Yeah,
of
I had a
edits?
couple,
Yep.
there are a couple of blank lines. There's one finding number 1
Yep.
in
So-
harmony with something.
I would recommend A through I.
With what?
A through I,
With A through I.
essentially all of the purpose and
Yeah, I
intents.
think that's fair.
Yeah.
But there was something in here, of course, I was reading it electronically. I found a couple of little question marks.
So I can fill those in for you.
Were they?
Top of page, third page.
Yes. With
That's a,
question feet.
That's 14 feet from the property line of
Got it.
Billerica Road.
And there was one other blank line in here, not
Top
counting
of
the
page 4, number 7.
Yes.
So that's blank because I don't think we got to that level of detail. As part of the COID, it requires, some public gathering space. And in the past, we've done that with benches at the entryway. They have a nice plaza as part of their new
Yeah, they do.
development. That may be an appropriate location.
I would say that entryway looks kind of like it fits this.
Maybe I think we should just get clarification,
Yeah.
even though we've closed the hearing. I think administratively, we can get some clarification whether that's an acceptable.
Yeah, we've talked to our clients, and they'd be more than willing to put some type of Pocket Park, kind of at the entrance there, used by some of the residents and some of the guests as well, so we would have zero issue with that.
Very good. Okay, I think that was all that I found.
I know the public hearing is closed. If I could ask Evan one quick question, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please go ahead.
On prior to issuance of a building permit, number 13, and I apologize, I probably read this 15 times on the other projects. Does the fire department require the sprinkler drawings prior to a building permit or during the building permit process?
Prior to, as part of their review.
Part of their review, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments from the board? We have a motion on the table. All right, I'm prepared to vote. Anybody? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, zip. Got it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It's a very nice-looking project, and I think Mr. Diggs was correct. Somebody, yeah, come on back, George. I put the thing I read back into the folder, checked it and put it in. Okay.
So the next item on the agenda is new public hearing for 104 Turnpike Road, Planning Board File 2017-06.
Anything you need read? Sure. Okay. Well, while we do some checking up here, I'll read the legal notice. The Chelmsford Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on Wednesday, September 13th at 7:30 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billrica Road, room 204, to consider the application of Kilnock Investments, LLC, for property located at 104 Turnpike Road for the construction of a 168-unit multifamily development contained within 4 structures and associated site improvements. The site is located in the 1A Limited Industrial District and consists of approximately 9 acres, as shown on Assessor's Map 86, Block 328, Lot 21. The applicant requests approval under Article 24, Business Amenities Overlay District, and Article 21, Community Enhancement and Investment Overlay District, COID, and associated special permits per sections 195, 143, 195, 111D, 195, 145C, 195, 114, and 195, 115B, and 195, 138E, 195, 74, and 195, 104, and any other permit relief as may be required under the Chelmsford zoning bylaw to allow the proposed use and project. A copy of the proposal is available in the Community Development Department in room LL01 of the town offices, 50 Billrica Road, Chelmsford, Mass. 01824, and may be viewed Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. All interested parties are invited to comment in writing or may present any relevant information for consideration at the public hearing on September 13th, 2007, per order George Zaharoulis, Chair, Chelmsford Planning Board.
So for the record, because Mr. Rue is out, the alternate associate member, Tim, is sitting in on this as a special permit. So we got a few letters.
All right. Start throwing them at me.
I'll read one, you read some.
Okay.
They were here. So, first one, Department of Public Works. This office has reviewed the site plans by Howard Stein Hudson Associates consisting of 17 sheets dated August 18, 2017, and a supplemental data report dated August 2017. As a result of this review, this office has the following comments. This department shall be notified when work on site is to commence in order to arrange for inspections. 2, any revision to the drainage system shall be submitted and approved by this office. 3, the stormwater operation and maintenance plan shall be followed as described in the report. Copies of any inspections or other reports done in accordance with the plan shall be forwarded to the engineering office. 4, a site as-built shall be provided upon completion of the work on site. As-built to include a letter from the engineer stating that all stormwater devices have been built to satisfy Mass Stormwater standards. Provide all supporting documentation and calculations. The as-built shall be from ground survey and submit in AutoCAD and paper form. 5, confirmatory testing shall be performed in the area of infiltration area per stormwater management guidelines. The bottom of the infiltration area shall be witnessed by the Chelmsford DPW Engineering Division. All unsuitable material, if any, discovered in the excavation for the filtration system shall be removed and disposed of in accordance with state and local regulations. 6, the proposed sewer work will require permitting from the DPW Sewer Division for connection to the municipal sewer system. Additional inspection is required to verify that the pool will not empty to the municipal sewer system. 7, a road opening permit is required from the Chelmsford TBW Division for work within the Turnpike Road right-of-way. 8, DPW advises that a sidewalk should be provided along the entire frontage of the property with associated crosswalks and signs providing a connection to Warren Ave. 9, trench permits shall be filed as necessary per 520 CMR 14.00, Chapter 82A. 10, the design engineer has received design and drafting and review comments from this office. If you have any questions, please contact this office, Christina Papadopoulos, Town Engineer.
Okay. I have a letter here from the Board of Health. Unfortunately, it is marked neither no concerns nor see attached letter, but I believe it's no concerns. There's a note on the bottom, please have builder refer to Board of Health regulations, re lifeguards on duty at all times prior to pool opening, and need for permit from the Board of Health.
Center Water District has no concerns.
Okay. I have a letter here. Chelmsford Housing Advisory Board. Dear members of the Planning Board, the proposed development at 104 Turnpike Road is being submitted to you under the Route 129 Business Amenities Overlay District, BAOD. Under the BAOD, the inclusionary housing bylaw applies to all multifamily projects requesting a special permit. The Housing Advisory Board voted unanimously to support this project. By producing 35 truly affordable rental units, the developer will be making significant contributions to both the much-needed supply of truly affordable housing and to the subsidized housing inventory, SHI. One of the strategic goals of the BAOD is to provide workforce housing, an important amenity for attracting employers to the business district. In the view of the Housing Advisory Board, the project therefore provides an important public benefit and therefore merits the density bonus requested by the applicant. Further, the developer is being very accommodating in adjusting project plans to minimize disturbing nearby residential neighborhoods and adding other amenities to promote connectivity and local access. With respect to connectivity and access, the Housing Advisory Board would like to encourage the town of Chelmsford to support the developer's effort to extend Lowell Regional Transit Authority service in the Turnpike area. And that's John Edwards, Board Chair, and signatures of the members of the board. Okay. You got that one?
You got it.
Okay. This is from Evan Belansky, Community Development Department. I have reviewed the project and submit the following for consideration. 1, project is consistent with the Route 129 Business Amenity Overlay District related to design and layout and the 2017 housing plan related to housing type, number of units, and affordability. 2, options per underlying industrial zoning such as up to 150,000 square feet of office and industrial and associated impacts related to traffic, noise, and hours of operation should be considered for comparison when assessing proposed project. 3, the degree of deviation requested for special permits per the CEIOD is appropriate. 4, the design regulations per the CEIOD related to higher quality architectural design, landscaping, and public amenities are apparent. 5, consideration should be given to enhancing the public realm along the streetscape with the addition of a shade-covered structure that could serve as a bus shelter for residents and school-aged children. 6, the legal language within the decision related to the inclusionary component should be coordinated with the town council, the housing authority, and the Housing Advisory Board. 7, I concur with the DPW that a sidewalk should be provided along the entire frontage of the property and extended to provide a crosswalk with associated pedestrian safety measures to Warren Ave. 8, the town will work with the Lowell Regional Transit Authority and the applicant to extend the existing bus route down Turnpike Road. 9, a parking ratio of 1.93 spaces per unit is proposed. Based upon similar projects, a ratio of 1.75 spaces per unit has been approved. Consideration should be given to land banking some spaces. And is there another piece to that letter? Doesn't have a signature on it, but I think it's...
Okay. Next one's from Chelmsford Fire Prevention. Dear board members of the board. Water supply appears to be adequate. The required pressure and flow shall be confirmed by a current water flow test performed proximate to the site, with all calculations submitted to this department for review and approval. Hydrant locations shown on this plan are adequate. The Chelmsford Fire Department requires a hydrant within 60 feet of the fire department connection and a hydrant within 500 feet of the manual firefighting operations. Hydrants and fire protection equipment shall be free from landscaping obstructions. Access for firefighting apparatus and emergency vehicles shown on the plan is adequate. All fire lanes shall be marked with approved pavement markings and/or approved signage. Fire access roads and turnarounds shall be designed with a swept path analysis using AASHTO Bus 45 turning template. Fire apparatus access shall be designed by a registered engineer to withstand the weight of fire apparatus. Snow storage shall not obstruct or impede fire access roads or turnaround. All exits shall have sidewalks to allow a continuous path from the exit that lead to the public way. Dumpster location shown on the plan is adequate. An automatic sprinkler system conforming to NFPA 13 and a fire alarm system conforming to NFPA 72 shall be required. In addition, the 4-story building shall contain a standpipe system that complies with NFPA 14. Both systems shall be monitored by a UL-approved central station monitoring service. And all components and fire protection systems must comply with the state building codes and Chelmsford Fire Department requirements. 3 sets of sprinkler and fire alarm plans along with supporting documentation must be submitted to the Fire Prevention Office for review prior to the approval of building plans. The developer shall comply with the Chelmsford Fire Department policy on emergency responder radio coverage dated 7/26/2017. A copy will be provided on request. All equipment related to fire safety shall be located at the discretion of the Chelmsford Fire Department. The applicant must submit an application to the Town of Chelmsford E911 Committee for address and unit numbering through its coordinator, Town Clerk Tricia Doris. The office would approve this plan with these conditions and changes, and I ask the board to make this letter a part of their approval process. Respectfully submitted, Daniel J. Kutufis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department, Fire Prevention Office. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Douglas DeShane, representing Kinlock Investments. We are here tonight to present the proposed multifamily housing project located at 104 Turnpike Road. This project is being proposed in conformance with, as was stated, Article 24 of the Chelmsford zoning bylaw, the Business Amenities Overlay District. Because the project contains multifamily housing under the BAOD, we are required to obtain a special permit under Article 23 of the inclusionary zoning bylaw. Lastly, we are required, as you know, to follow the CEIOD regulations under Article 21. Therefore, as the board will recall, we were previously before the board seeking a determination of applicability under the CEIOD, which was in fact granted. During those hearings, we did receive a number of comments and significant input from the board with respect to the future development of the project. We have also held a neighbor meeting where we invited all of the abutters to come in. We presented the project, and again, we received significant amount of input and comments from the neighbors. So we are here tonight to present to you the project as amended based on those comments and input from the board and neighbors. And so what I'd like to do, with the board's permission, I'm going to give you a very brief overview of the project. Then I'm going to have Katie give you a more detailed technical presentation of the project. And then we'd like to finish up with Lorraine Black, our landscape architect, giving a presentation on landscaping. And I do apologize, I should have introduced the development team first off. Katie Enright from Howard Stein Hudson is here as our civil engineer. David Guthrie and Christopher Finneral, who are the principals of Kinlock Investment, are here, and Lorraine Black, our landscape architect, is also here. So in the interest of time, and due to the unavailability of our experts, we will be deferring the discussion of traffic and architecture till next we meet. So tonight we're going to give you a quick overview of the project and landscaping, because Lorraine was available to come tonight, and then we'll move on from there. So if acceptable to the board, the 104 Turnpike Road site is approximately 9 acres of undeveloped land. It's located near the intersection of Turnpike Road and Warren Avenue. The property is zoned IA, Limited Industrial District, and as you know, it is also within the Business Amenities Overlay District and is specifically targeted for multifamily housing. The project calls for the development of 168 units in 4 multifamily structures. We are proposing 1 two-story structure which would contain 24 units, and we are proposing 3 four-story structures that contain 48 units each. All of the 4-story buildings will have elevators, and 2 of the 3 4-story buildings will have underground parking, which will contain 38 spaces, including a handicapped van parking under each of those 2 buildings. Of the 168 units, 68 are proposed to be 1-bedroom units, and 100 are proposed to be 2-bedroom units. Of the 168 units, in order to satisfy the inclusionary zoning bylaw, 20%, or 35 units, will be made affordable to residents earning 50% or less of the area median incomes. So that is the affordability requirement, and we are proposing to satisfy that in its entirety. Other amenities planned for the project include a clubhouse, swimming pool, bike storage, dog walking area, landscaped parks and open space areas, as well as a walking loop and trails. Given the project's close proximity to the Route 129 commercial corridor, this project will provide significant housing opportunities for people working in the area. And we also believe that having housing opportunities available for employees will be an incentive for businesses to come to the 129 commercial area. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Katie, and she'll give you a little more details on the project and present some pictures. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm first going to submit, or at least give to you and some to the audience, a copy of the presentation materials we have tonight that are a little bit different than what you have in your computer. This is just a copy of the traffic study. And pass it down. This is just so you can follow along with what we're doing on the screen. I'm going to have a bunch extra. If you want to pass them around, I'm going to have to share a little bit. But it will be the same thing that appears on the TVs around the room. Again, as Doug said, I'm Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson, the project civil engineer. As Doug stated, and this isn't going to work on the TV, is it? My pointer. So as Doug stated, this is located within the Business Amenities Overlay District, the new district that was created last year in the town of Chelmsford, in the orange area along Turnpike Road at the bottom of this page. This shows the entire area, the over 600 acres of this district and the multifamily overlay. The subject site is the treed site that you see here, essentially smack in the middle of this page, which is approximately 9 acres of undeveloped land, which has been zoned IA for a good amount of time. You can see this side of Turnpike Road is zoned IA, where the other side of Turnpike Road is zoned RB. Part of what the multifamily overlay in the BAO district was to do in this area by adding this multifamily overlay was allow for not only housing for the businesses to be created in the overlay district, but also allow a transition between the residential properties and the commercial industrial properties located traditionally within the district, and hopefully the new amenities there also. This is a new rendering that we just got late today. As Doug said, the architect will be here for full questions at the next hearing. I will present to you just briefly the architecture of the project as I go through the whole project. This is a view shed that was of particular interest to not only the abutters, but the board as far as the view shed from Turnpike Road. And this is a good way to start to kind of show you some of the changes that have been made to the layout of the project as a whole, as it relates to the comments that we received both at the previous meeting regarding the applicability and also our abutters meeting. One of the big concerns was the view shed from Turnpike Road, of course, and giving a transitional feeling between the residences on the opposite side of Turnpike and coming into the project and look at really positioning the 4-story buildings away from that at the back and maybe bringing in a lower building across the frontage of the property. So the layout's been changed to include a 2-story building along the frontage of the property. And what we did was we actually moved the driveway down to match the driveway at 107 Turnpike. So the driveway is now directly across from 107 Turnpike. What that did was it allows the building, the 2-story building, to take up a significant portion of the frontage of the parcel. And now the entry will come into a clubhouse, which is a small 1-story structure. So the visibility from Turnpike Road, you'll have to look over these structures and past these structures to see the 4-story buildings at the back. This is a glimpse of the entire site in one plan, so you can see the portion of the site at the front. That building is a 2-story walk-up, which I just showed you a visual of. We've changed the location of the pocket park from the previous submittal to have it be in that lower southern corner. What that allows us to do is also keep some of those mature trees that are along that corner of the property, which will also help screen the project from view as you come down Turnpike Road. There's a significant patch of trees on the other corner of the site also, which is actually off this property and on the neighboring industrial property, which would also, we obviously can't touch as part of this proposal. So you don't see that at the upper left corner, but there's also a good amount of trees between the project site and Turnpike Road. There's also a tree line along the northern part of the project that's on the property to the north of us also. And you can see from the previous time we were here, we had a boulevard type setting before. We heard the board's request for an increase in open space and an increase in green space. So you can see we've cut down the impervious areas pretty significantly from the previous concept. So what we've done is created more of a little bit more of a campus feel with a large green space in the middle of this property. So what we've done is concentrated the parking to the exterior, and then the buildings all face a green space. So there's a large green space in the middle of this property, which will house the clubhouse and a lot of the amenities. It also allowed us to push those buildings back, so the higher buildings are further away from the road. The closest proximity of the first building to the road is 50 feet, which is a greater distance than is allowed by the bylaw, to allow for some green space, for some street trees, and for that walkway. Some of the amenities that we had on the original plan that we've kept is that walkway around the entire property. Based on the engineering letter and some of the other comments we've heard, we're going to move that walkway out to the street so that instead of being interior of the property or just interior of the street, it would be along Turnpike Road. And we'll also be including a connection and a crosswalk across the way to connect to the Warren Ave sidewalk, which ends right around the corner adjacent to this site. And also, as the police department, I don't believe you read their letter, but that was also submitted today. The police department requested not only the crosswalk across there, but have it also be, have basically a crosswalk signage and the flashing lights like you have at the library. So if somebody were to come to that crosswalk, they would press the button, the lights would flash to alert somebody that somebody was crossing Turnpike Road as they crossed. So it would only flash when it was actuated by somebody who was trying to cross the road there. And his concern was that somebody coming out of Warren Avenue taking a left might not at first notice a person crossing the road in that area, so they just want it to be as safe as possible. So that was something that we also are looking to address in any revision of this project. So that corner is the pocket park. Some of the other amenities that we've looked at, including which other projects in the area have included with success, are these exterior garages. So the two buildings closest to the front do not have garages underneath. The topography of the site slopes down towards the rear. towards the DPW facility. So those two buildings were easily able to be graded for garages based on existing topography. So those two have garages under where the front two buildings do not. So to kind of offset that and give those people another amenity, we've looked at providing small one-story garages along some of the property lines, which helps kind of keep the residential internal of the IA abutters on that side. It provides some screening. It also provides an additional amenity to people in those buildings. Some of the amenities that we previously talked about was the clubhouse, the fitness center. Right now, we're showing an in-ground swimming pool, but we're looking at other options to that, possibly a court or some kind of other outdoor amenity that would not be a swimming pool, and doing some research there. We're providing a one-story clubhouse with a pavilion area and some bike storage, which is all connected in that center area, which will allow people who don't have garage spaces or who don't want to keep their bikes within their apartment to have a bike storage space outside of their apartment. As Doug stated, we also have a dog park area that's at the back of the property, so kind of away from the residences and adjacent to the wooded area at the back of the property. And you can see there's two isolated wetland areas, one very small, one a little bit larger, and then there's a bordering vegetated wetland that's all the way in that back corner. So we're staying away from the jurisdictional wetland at that back corner as much as possible. And we're still researching the accessibility of a trail going on to the neighboring properties that would bring us out to Alpha Road and connect us into the rest of the BAOD overlay district that way. So we're showing a pervious trail there that goes out to an existing access easement that we're not really sure if we have the rights to use yet, but we're continuing to work on title and look into that as a possibility. As we move through, these are just more close-ups of the layout and materials plans. Grading and drainage for the site. We've done a significant amount of soil testing on site that's been witnessed by your town engineer. Essentially, we ended up with basically the concept to basically have everything drained to that green space in the middle. Having that centralized area allows us to have a large green space in the middle. There's not, as you'll see in the landscape plan, there's no trees planted over that area, but around that area. But it allows us to landscape the other areas and keep it out from under some paved areas. So we have a catch basin system that goes to an underground system under the green space in the middle of the site, which will treat and infiltrate all of the stormwater for the subject site. I've submitted to you tonight, and we're not going to talk about it very much, but a traffic study. We completed a full traffic study on the site at basically looking at 3 locations. The locations were Turnpike and Warren Ave, Turnpike and Mill Road, and Turnpike and the 129 Golden Cove Billrica Road intersection. So I've submitted that to Colleen today in PDF form, so you'll have that loaded onto your machines and able to review that prior to the next hearing. And I've submitted 2 copies, and my traffic engineer will be here at the next hearing to discuss any and all concerns with the traffic study that we've presented to this board. But we did look at all 3 of those locations and studied them. And this was prior to school letting out this past summer, so we counted it before going into the summer holiday. We have some architectural elevations, and we'll have our architect here at the next meeting also. But this is the 2-story building elevation looking from Turnpike Road. So you can see we've looked at a lot of traditional New England architecture, a lot of peaked roofs. We're looking at different materials. So the bottom material is a stone, and then we're looking at horizontal siding and portico areas for the entrances. The entrances for the building on Turnpike Road actually face the interior of the site. So that is actually the rear of the building. The other buildings are 4 stories. These are the ones that are well interior. This is the building all the way at the back that shows the 4-story structure with the garage. This has a larger stone base. And this is the concept, or this is the elevation of the clubhouse. So you can see that as one of the view sheds. Basically, the clubhouse in the 2-story building is the immediate view shed from Turnpike Road. And this is the garage structures along the property lines. I'm going to turn it over to Lorraine to talk a little bit about Oh, before I do that, I'm going to just talk a little bit about parking. I know Doug mentioned already that we are at just under a 2 per spaces. I know that was a concern of the board previously, that we weren't providing enough spaces on site and there wasn't alternative transportation. So we're just under 2 spaces per unit on this site, which is only about 30 spaces shy per zoning. We were about double that at the last applicability meeting, and we were looking at land banking some of those spaces. As Evan's letter stated, a lot of apartment developments are comfortable at a 1.75, so we're significantly above that. And there's 326 spaces on the site versus, I believe, 358, which would be required by zoning. So I'm going to let Lorraine take over. That's up there too. It's the third slide. Okay.
All right, I'm just going to ask you to be quick, because it is getting late. I know you love your landscaping.
I'll be very quick. Good evening, Lorraine Black, landscape architect on the design team. As Katie had mentioned, the multi-family project here is the buildings are surrounding an open space in the middle. I've designed a landscape plan that includes extensive and diverse mixture of flowering trees, flowering shrubs, evergreens, and with seasonal interest. We certainly have a number of amenities here, all of which had special attention for the landscape. Along Turnpike Road, the street trees are located along the sidewalk. Not only are there a series of oak trees, but there also are smaller shade and flowering trees, the crab apples that are between the roadway and the front of the buildings. There are a number. The project itself has a number of shade trees adjacent to the parking lot, as well as along the buildings. We have the pool and clubhouse area have plantings between the pavilion and the parking area to give some screening. In the back of the area, the project grading slopes down towards the back, and all those slopes are heavily planted with a mixture of things such as forsythia that really holds that slope, as well as a number of other shade shrubs and evergreens. The dog park in the back has some trees around that to give that a little bit of shade. We also have, in the front, we also have the little seating area in the lower corner. That also has a number of attractive plantings around that. And again, the focus is the center with the clubhouse and that open green space. So it's a pretty extensive plan. This is the board that shows all the selections that I've chosen. Again, we have a number of shade trees. We have the flowering smaller trees, crab apples, Coosa dogwood, a number of other flowering shrubs. You can see the array. Again, things that are interesting in different times of year. And it is a very extensive plan. I think it'll help make this a beautiful project.
Thank you.
Okay, so that will be our brief presentation for tonight. So we're here to answer any questions, and we'd appreciate the opportunity at the next meeting to get into more detail with the traffic and also the architecture and answer any additional questions there too.
So at this point, we'll take some questions from the board, and then we'll go to the audience. So we'll start with Mike.
I guess I don't have any particular questions at this time. It looks to me as if some of the concerns that were brought up last time have been dealt with. I'm looking at the building across the front, trying to pin it down. I'd say it's about 1908 Edwardian kind of look. It's nice. I will be very interested in the traffic, but we're not taking that up at this point, so, yeah.
We'll get that copy of the traffic report to us as soon as you can.
Yeah, tomorrow. Get it out.
okay, good. And that's all I have at this time.
Henry?
Just a couple quick questions. HVAC units, where are they all gonna be put? On the ground. So each unit, kinda like they do on 110, up next to me, they have facing 110, you have one by each unit.
Dave Guthrie, the applicant. We're not that far yet, whether we're gonna put them out on the ground or try and get a unit in that closet off the porch.
Yeah.
Self-contained unit in there, so we're not quite there.
I'm not a big fan of what was done on 110, that's why I'm, it looks
Yeah.
fine from the backside of the building, but when you're driving by on 110, you see them hanging out. It's just a comment. Do we have any lighting shown up yet anywhere?
Oh, actually, I don't have it within the presentation, but you've been submitted a full photometric plan.
Yeah.
The lights are, what we looked at was a residential light fixture that's about 12 feet in height. That is within, I can pull it up, actually, it's within.
Right here, it's right here, Henry.
You got it within yours.
Yeah.
It was within the plan set. What we're looking at is a shorter residential type pole to be placed around the project site. The photometrics are all there. We're looking at a 4000 K, which is the neutral light for this LED fixture, directed down, dark sky compliant, and also there's some small wall packs that again are directed down on the garage units. So that's all there for your review. Nothing tall and industrial looking. We're keeping everything very low and residential. So I believe the wall packs are even at about 10 feet in height for the one-story garages, and then the pole lights are 12.
All right. Katie, I'm gonna ask you if you can put these plans all together in several PDFs and get it over to Evan so he can forward it out to us. I know that we get it as a link, but I think if we get the PDFs, we can all look at it on our computers individually, so. You may have already done that, but.
Yeah, no, we send them to Colleen as a PDF, and then they get linked. So, but either way, we'll figure it out. I'll check with
Yeah,
her.
I'd like to get it sooner than later.
You can go, they're available via the agenda. So if you go to the town website, you want me to send you a
Send
PDF?
it directly
Okay.
to us as PDFs.
Sure.
It'll be easier, because it's
Not a
hard,
problem.
the links sometimes is
Yep.
hard.
There's the lights.
Nan?
Probably have more comments than questions,
I
but
want questions right now.
strictly questions?
Yes.
Nothing more than questions. Where did this sheet go to? I lost, there we go. All right. Is the expectation that the sidewalk on the front of the property will be modified from these plans such that it provides a continuance at least to the edge of the next property?
Right, yes. So the comments that we received was to essentially, we're going to take that front walk and pull it out to the edge of the road. So we would build that like a town sidewalk across the entire frontage and then connect across with a crosswalk to Warren Ave.
When you did that, would you take away the sidewalk that goes into that pocket park? that goes
No,
into
we
that
would
pocket park?
we would reconnect it in. So we wouldn't want a double sidewalk. So we'll just bring the main sidewalk out and then connect it into both edges so that it still wraps around the property.
But you'd still keep the pocket park?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a
No,
nice
that's
space.
not going away. We'll just reconnect it in. We'll just move the walk that loops into it out to the frontage and then create a new entrance into the pocket park.
Okay. Question for Lorraine. Regarding the landscape plan, could you talk a little bit about how the landscaping in that pocket park shields the neighborhood across the street from the lights in the development?
Well, there are a number of shade trees that are proposed, as well as the group of existing trees that are at that corner. And in fact, I think there's 4 or 5 right in that area. So that would certainly assist in any kind of screening of any lights that would be in that section of the parking lot.
Is there landscaping at the lower levels as well as the upper story of the shade trees that shield those lights?
There are shrubs around the back side of the seating area in the Pocket Park. So that's probably about a 4-foot height.
So it actually does shield both the
Correct.
low light and high light from the adjacent
It does,
neighborhood.
yes.
Okay. Where's the pin oaks? I'm sorry, I have to ask.
They're along the front,
Not next to the parking lot.
not anywhere near the parking lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nan, it's getting
No
late.
problem.
That's
So,
all I have right now.
Thank you.
Monica?
Most of my questions will relate to the traffic study, so I'll wait for the next meeting. Where are you in terms of finding out where you are in terms of the pedestrian way that could possibly lead towards Alpha?
So we've been working with a land use attorney on the title. So we're working on it. Basically, all the documentations from an engineer's point of view basically said that all the access was from within the Alpha Road Park. So we're working with the property owner and looking into that further. So it was also important to look at for not only that reason, but for water. So we looped the water around the property, and there's also a hydrant that's right at that easement that connects to the property, and the water department would love for us to be able to loop that into the Alpha Road system. So we've left a stub for that for potential future connection in to loop those two systems together. But for now, we're looped within the Turnpike Road system itself per their requirements. So
That's fine.
there's a couple reasons we're looking into it.
Okay, that's great. When do you think that would be resolved? Any indication?
We're hoping by the next meeting, but we're going to continue to work on that.
Okay, that's it for now.
Glenn?
I got just one question. On the snow for your snow plowing, is all the snow gonna be removed from there?
So, yeah, there are some landscape areas, obviously, that we can pile snow for smaller storm events, and around the edges of the property essentially, but large storm events, as in any large storm event, will have to be taken off site, absolutely.
And one comment for you on your dumpster.
Mm-hmm.
You may wanna turn that because your dumpster guy is gonna wanna kill you. He's never gonna be able to pull a truck in there to get your dumpsters out of there.
Which one, the upper corner?
Upper left corner, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe just turn it and make it straight on with the driveway. It'd be a lot easier.
It is.
Yeah, no, they have direct in from, yeah. We'll definitely look at it, but we can get a fire truck around the entire site,
Yeah.
so we didn't worry too much about access for a dump truck, but we'll look at that more.
Tim?
I have no questions at this time.
Okay. I got a bunch, but I'm gonna hold them. I'm gonna go to the audience. This is a public hearing. I'd ask you to stand up, state your name, address for the record.
Okay. Bill Cassidy, 83 Turnpike Road. This question I have is probably for Katie concerning the
No,
existing 30.
Ask Karen.
Oh, okay, sorry, 30-foot wide existing easement, which is shown on the survey on the existing conditions. And my question is, has there any discussion been made of utilizing that 30-foot wide for construction access? And once the construction gets done, have it be a 24-foot roadway for motor vehicles for the tenants to get in and out of the property onto Alpha Road. And the other question that I have, I noticed, I did the walk on the abutter, which is owned by the town of Chelmsford. We have a Tracy Road there, and I say, is it possible to extend that road into the back of the property to give access to it and alleviate the traffic coming in and out for construction as well as the tenants from Turnpike Road? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Katie, hold on, Bob, you wanna address the easement?
Yeah, just briefly, I believe this is the same easement we're talking about as far as access through the properties next to Alpha Road. So we're looking into that further. Like I said, first initial pass, researching all the deeds and the plans. It doesn't look like this property has the right to access that, and it goes right into the parking lot next door. But as far as construction access, we are looking at other alternatives to construction access during the project. Not for project residents later, we're looking at accessing still from Turnpike Road, but for during construction, we are looking at alternative access for that if possible. So we're examining opportunities there that we might be able to get from abutters for construction access.
Okay, thank you.
Bob Joyce, 103 Turnpike Road. Oops. We can't talk about traffic, so I'll skip that one. Is there any?
Promise you can do it next meeting.
Yeah, is there any consideration for, I look at this as what is this contractor gonna do for us in the neighborhood? Reducing the size of the front was fine, but I'd like to see some road improvements. I'd like to see street lights put on, because in that swath of Turnpike Road, there's very few streetlights. So that's something, and they would be on the sidewalk, be on the sidewalk side. Okay, and streetlight improvements. Directly in front of my house, I was directly in front of the driveway, but they switched it, which I'm happy about. But it's a 50-foot setback, and I'd really like to see them not take down all the trees that are across the street from my house. There's some mature trees in there, there's some junk, but I understand that landscape people like putting trees in, but they're this big when they put them in, and I'd be 110 by the time they grow. And the last one was, so I'd like a no cut for the first 25 feet, is what I'm asking for. And I guess that will do it for now until your next meeting, when I can talk about all the traffic things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce.
This mine? Yeah, that's it.
Katie, before I come to you, Chris, Katie, what consideration was given to any of the trees or mature trees in the front part of the property when the landscape architect did her thing? Or maybe Lorraine, you want to answer that? Did you analyze that, or?
Well, we didn't locate every individual tree within the first 25 feet of the site. We can certainly go out before the next meeting and look at those and look at our grading differential for the project. That front building does sit at the grade of the lot in the front, so there's not a significant grade differential in that front area. But we will have to install the sidewalk, obviously. So we can look at it further before the next meeting. Yep.
Okay.
Good evening. Chris Bowman, 3 Julio Street, also Precinct 4 representative. And I have, I'm sorry I don't have enough, but I have a letter to the board concerning this project. And I also owe you attachments, so I will put everything in an email either tonight or tomorrow and send them to everybody. But for now,
Why don't you send it to Community Development
But
Office?
of course.
And they will distribute it to us. Okay?
okay. But let me pass these around for now. And if you
Thanks,
could
Chris.
share
Yeah, we can manage.
a little bit. Okay, first off, this project is in the Route 129 BAOD, and the dimensions that apply to this project are within the CEIOD. And there are a number of issues that I raised to the board back in July. But one of the most glaring dimensional requirements for multifamily housing in the CEIOD is a limitation of 35 feet or 3 stories. This project is for 45 feet and 4 stories. That is nonconformance right there. In addition to that, there is a problem with the inclusionary zoning. Now, the inclusionary zoning, according to the Chelmsford inclusionary zoning bylaw, concerning density bonus. Upon a showing of exceptional design and/or public benefits, the planning board may, by a special permit, authorize a density bonus of up to 20% of the total number of dwelling units permitted in a project. Okay, that's the primary thing, as well as the affordability requirements of this bylaw do not apply to density house units. And it must be integrated, the project must integrate into the neighborhood in which it is located. Okay, so what is really important is to identify and verify what the permitted units are for a project in the zoning according to the Route 129, BAOD, and CEIOD. As far as units go, that is not in the dimensional requirements. It is in the Chelmsford 2017 HPP page 28, which gives low density to 4 to 6 units per acre. And then there's also a moderate level. And then the high density is 11 plus units per acre. Now, Turnpike Road is a residential road. It is not a commercial road like Littleton Road, which has the Kensington 40B, and that has 144 units. That is, to my understanding, the largest project that the town has concerning affordable housing or any specific high-density project. So at 9 acres, the low density is 4 to 6 units per acre. The maximum for high density is 11 plus, but we'll call it 11 because generally that's used within the commercial zones, the plus aspect, as well as the high density, is 11 units per acre. So if we just look at the maximum as an illustration, would be 99 units for this project. Now, the inclusionary zoning allows, by the board's discretion, up to 20% of that permitted project to be incorporated with the inclusionary zoning. So 10% of 99, you have to round up, is 10, so 20% is...
It's 119 units.
I'm sorry?
119 units. It's 20 onto the 99.
Okay, so that's the limitation of the project, is 119, 117, 119 units, not 168. So I do request that the board closely look at the dimensional requirements for the CEIOD for multifamily housing to the Route 129 BAOD, take into consideration the majority of the single-family homes throughout that whole area, and that Turnpike Road specifically is a residential road. Mill Road is also a residential road. Billerica Road is more of a commercial road, but that's further down Billerica Road than the intersection of Turnpike and Billerica Road. So I think those are my major comments, and again, I will get a copy of everything to you all with all the attachments. And so because of this, I specifically request that the board deny this project as is. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Cole. I live at 97 Turnpike Road. I'm on a butter across the street from this. And I was going to point out some of the things that Chris just did, but I'll skip that because you already got it. So I just want to touch on a couple of points that I touched on last time, that the compatibility and complementary of this complex is too big for this single-family home neighborhood. It's aesthetically not, it doesn't fit in the surrounding area. There's nothing in that area that's more than 2 stories high. This is going to be 4 stories high. 3 buildings now at 4 stories high. It just doesn't match the neighborhood. And it will not preserve the characteristics of the area. And these are all things that you guys wrote when you made the bylaw. So basically, if you're gonna approve this project for the way it stands at this size, then you're not only taking away from the residents that already live here, that moved here to have space, to have a yard, to have a nice quiet neighborhood, you're depriving us of that right. You're also sending a message to the developer saying that the things that you wrote, the rules and regulations, don't matter. And I don't think that that's a message that you guys want to send to developers, because that's just going to send us down a slippery slope. And I think we're already headed down that way. And if we don't get a handle on this, then it's going to be out of control, and we're going to be living in downtown Lowell. And that's not where I want to live. I moved out of the city to be in a town, along with many of my neighbors, came from Somerville, came from Boylston. They don't want to live in a city atmosphere. They want to live in a town. And I know this is more of a personal note than a factual note, but I'd hate to see my town take away my right to live in a town situation. And I think, saying that, I think I can speak for not just the abutters to this area, but for a lot of people that live in Chelmsford. This is why we live here. And we don't want that taken away, because I'd rather pay high taxes. To be honest with you, I'd rather pay high taxes than be back in a city situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Anyone else from the public? It is getting late, so if there's anyone else that wants to speak, if you could queue up, it will go a little quicker.
Okay, Pierre de Villiers, 69 Turnpike Road. First off, I want to say that this is, and I'm going to get shot down by the rest of the Turnpike residents. I think this is the prettiest thing on Turnpike. Could be. My issue is the 168 units. By my count, there are 120 houses on Turnpike right now. So we are more than doubling the number of houses on Turnpike. I do not believe this has ever happened in Chelmsford before, but you could correct me. I know this isn't about talking about traffic, but I walk along Turnpike. I cycle along Turnpike. There are people here who run along Turnpike. This is more than doubling the number of people who are going to walk, cycle, and run along Turnpike. I can't tell you how many times school buses have missed me by inches, let alone drivers. It's only a matter of time before somebody gets hit on Turnpike. This halves that amount of time. So I have 2 specific questions other than that. The parking. You have laws in the town or rules in the town that guide you with respect to parking. Why are you going to ignore them, allow a 30 parking shortfall? That's a 15% shortfall by my calculation. And then lastly, I think you covered, the wetlands were covered, but I see there are wetlands on the property, and I believe they're being avoided, but I wasn't sure about that. Thank you.
If there's wetlands, they'll have to go before Conservation Commission for that, and they will address the wetlands issues.
Okay, thank you.
Donna Cassidy, 83 Turnpike Road. I'll hold most of my traffic comments to the next meeting, although, you know, Turnpike Road is supposed to be a residential road, and without 168 units, I already have people going on Turnpike Road, passing on the right on my lawn, and you know, and I've had a car overturn and flip on my lawn, so we've, you know, I'm going to have a lot to say about the traffic units. I also, one of the earlier people mentioned that Mill Road was also a private road. I mean, excuse me, a residential road. I also want to mention that Warren Ave, which this is now going to directly, you know, impact, is also a residential road, which this project's going to impact. I'm also not fond of having where you've got one of the dumpsters where it's about 50 feet away from the abutters, so that we can all hear at 3 in the morning the empty beer bottles being thrown in and the, you know, the trash truck coming by. Thank you.
Sir.
The lady previous with the long hair, I think she captured everything very well. That I mean, I moved to town. I'm sorry, my name is Richard Stander, 153 Turnpike Road. I grew up in Chelmsford, moved away when I went to college, etc. But I came back to Chelmsford. And why did I come back to Chelmsford? Because it was a country town, and I see it evolving very quickly into urban sprawl. And as many, several people have commented, they don't want to live in a Somerville or other high-density area. They came to Chelmsford for a reason. So I really feel that a project of this size is violating our rights to what we purchased in town, because it's going to change the character of the neighborhood very seriously. And so many people do, and it's not just adults, it's children, ride their bikes, walk, etc. And the traffic is becoming, let's say, more traffic, more aggressive. And I had an incident where somebody almost hit me when I was trying to get the mail out of my mailbox. And in backing away, I ended up doing backflips down my driveway. You know, and if we add this volume of residency, I think it's going to have a very serious impact on the neighborhood. It's really going to change the character. I just want to point out quickly, if we have 168 units, and most families require 2 cars, a husband and wife working. It's rare that one person would stay home. So we're looking at 252 if it's a 1.5x situation, 2x, 336 automobiles. That's in addition to rush hour traffic, etc. And unlike a commercial building, this is 7 days a week. It's not 5 days a week. So the residents of the area are deprived of sort of a quieter time on the weekends. So I think that's very important that the children get out there, they use the streets, they you know, for recreational purposes, and they want to enjoy that. We're going to miss that if this project goes through as planned. So I really feel that we need to visit this and tread very carefully, because if this is, you know, if you talk about asteroids, this isn't a small one. This is a potential planet killer. So I think we need to tread very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
I'm Glenn Davison. I'm 116 Turnpike Road, and I'm also on the Chelmsford Recycling Committee, and I run the Chelmsford Townwide Cleanup. And I feel that we are abutters because we are directly behind the school, and there's actually a skyline that would change for us because trees would be taken down and buildings would be put up. Those are not just 4-story buildings, but they also have a roof on them, and I feel like people would then be able to see in the windows of our condominiums. And one thing that I wanted to point out when I talked to my neighbors, and my neighbors seem to agree with me, they have concern about this because these are apartments, they're not houses, they're not condominiums. So there's one of my neighbors brought up the concern about ongoing maintenance. So I feel that they're too tall. 168 units is too much. I am concerned about traffic. I am concerned about noise. And the number of units is actually more units than was published in the paper. The paper said, I think, 3 units, and we're now saying that it's actually 4 units. And as these are apartments and the affordable housing units, since they're apartments, there's no town trash and no town recycling as part of these apartments. I wanted to make that clear that they are apartments, and since they are apartments and making money, they don't qualify to have those done. Thank you.
It hasn't gone in front of town meeting yet.
So, I want the last statement, sir. The last statement, I believe at this moment, the town picks up trash at apartment buildings. There is I believe there's an article before town meeting to change that. So, it's just something to double check on those facts. And on that note, I think I would like that this be referred to, at some point, to the solid waste coordinator to determine if the dumpsters proposed are the proper size for a units of this size. So,
You looking for a motion to continue?
no, not yet. Is there anyone else from the audience at this time? Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. So I withheld my comments. I, as you know, objected to the density when you came before us, and I'm still objecting to the density. I actually agree with Chris Bowman on the density. I can't believe that. So, that's my reservation. The parking, the reduction in parking doesn't bother me as much. We have special permits for parking. We do it routinely. I looked at the numbers, it's 33 spaces, I believe. That's the difference. And we've routinely done that on a lot of projects if we felt, based on a traffic count and some studies that we usually get. So I'm not too concerned about that. The other part that when I did my review is that the height on the rear buildings are 51.5 feet. Even in an IA district, commercial buildings 45, and an RM district's 35. So I'm concerned about the height. I'm concerned about snow storage. I think that's something that there could be a little more snow storage on site, because even a storm of 2 or 3 or 4 inches, you're not going to be removing snow. You're going to be storing it somewhere. Those are my comments. So I will make one more round around the board for quick comments, and then we'll create a plan of action for where we're going next. So, Nan, you had some comments?
I do have some comments. I would like to thank the architects and planners for responding to the concerns that we had, that we brought forward when we reviewed it for applicability. I'm pleased to see that you got more of the parking under the buildings and therefore have less need for impervious pavement. I like the use of the garages adjacent to the, along the edge of the property, adjacent to the industrial properties, because I think it provides some buffer to the residents on this property from those old industrial properties. I would like to thank you for reducing the height of the front building so that it doesn't have as much of a presence and the landscaping that's associated with it to break it up. And for the green space on the front of the property with all of its landscaping that buffers the light from the adjacent properties. I am a little disappointed that there's no plans for the rear space in terms of open space management for residents. I'm not seeing anything back there that looks like it becomes usable open space for that the residents, that gives green space to the residents. Although I do think that the layout and all of the green space between the buildings is provides some open air. But I think you have some opportunities to do something in the back that would provide some open space. I'm sure that I'll come up with more questions and concerns as we go through a deeper delve into the technical design. But my first comments are very favorable.
Henry?
I'm good.
Mike?
I'm waiting on the traffic. I think, for me, that's going to be something very important to see, and I'll just leave it at that for now until we get it.
Okay. Monica?
The traffic is my primary at this point. I also hope at some point we'll schedule a site visit.
I'm sorry, what was that?
At some point we'd schedule a site visit.
Okay. You done?
Yes.
Glenn?
Sorry.
I thought you were gonna keep going.
No,
I'm
it's
good for now.
Tim?
I'm good.
I just wanted to point out, and Evan, correct me if I'm wrong, the HPP, the Housing Production Plan, is only guidance to this board. It's not part of our bylaw.
Correct.
It's guidance, that's all it is. It's a guidance plan. It's not part of our bylaw. So I know that there was numbers referred to that Housing Production Plan earlier, but it's not part of our bylaw. It is something that we refer to or use for guidance, but it's not etched in the bylaw. So Monica brought up a question about a site walk. Are we at that point, or is it maybe one more meeting and then a site walk?
One more.
Okay. So we'll do one more meeting and then a site walk
that
after
makes
that.
sense.
We didn't get too heavy into drainage, right? So you're gonna address that a little bit more? Just for, I mean, I know you go over with Christina, and you guys, Christina does a great job, but just to go over the basics of it with us. And then, I guess, address some of my questions and some of the audience's questions, so. So the next meeting is September 28th, is that correct?
27th. September 27th, right? Yes.
Okay. Okay, if it's a Wednesday, we're okay.
You guys all back from your
Yes,
excursions?
yeah, vacation time, you know? Okay, do you have any final comments, questions? Doug, any comments, questions? Evan, any comments, questions?
set.
Christina? Anyone else on the board? No. Okay, so at this point, I'll entertain a motion to continue to our September 27th.
And I shall so move.
Second.
I have a motion by Mike, second by Glenn. All those in favor?
Aye.
So what we've done is we've continued to the meeting to our next, continue this project to our next meeting, which will be September 27th. And they'll be posted online probably the week before or Friday before, so you know what time.
Will that also be a public hearing?
Yes, it will be.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now.
200?
Committee reports?
No, 200 put off.
Continue, yeah.
Can I
Oh,
keep
yeah, here's
this?
the agenda right here. I think we're all set.
You can have it.
Mike, do you have one of those?
What?
You can email us all this stuff. I just,
I know, well,
every time I get quiet time is in my office with doors closed.
Okay, so the only thing left is committee reports. I know that West Campus is wrapping up, so we might have a quick presentation or update at town meeting, but still to be determined. Anyone else want to address anything real quick? I'll entertain Mike to make that motion.
Which I will make
Did
gladly.
you continue 200 Turnpike?
Yes, we did.
Oh, no,
Oh, wait a minute.
no, that's right. So we got to do that.
See, I wasn't totally
All
wrong.
right, so 200 Turnpike, letter from Phil Iliopoulos,
Yes, let me close up my.
attaches our official request for a continuance for tomorrow's site visit agenda meeting. Thank you for letting me know of any issues. Where is it?
Did he give a date?
I guess it's to our
Next
next
meeting?
one then.
Continue to the next meeting, and if they want to extend it beyond that, they can.
Okay, so, I would say that we continue it to our next meeting. I would like a note to go to the applicant that we want them to appear here, even if they want to continue. I'm done granting them continuance. They're
You're
taking
not
up space
inclined to continue it beyond.
beyond next meeting because they're taking up space and
Sure.
we've got a full agenda. So,
Yeah.
so I'll
So
entertain a
we'll
move
motion
the
to continue
Request
with
to appear.
request, move to continue and request to appear for a September 27th
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, like you said.
I have a motion by Mike,
Second.
second by Glenn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Mike made a motion to adjourn. Glenn
Second.
seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good. Very good. Actually, that was pretty efficient given the.